Night.
So they do a debrief with the U.S. ambassador in Germany, and they told you they also talked to the FBI and Homeland Security. That's in the first.
Yeah, I saw them the next morning and knew that stuff was going on.
So now we're talking 9/13.
Yes.
You spent time with them there because they're still there, you're there, and talked with them.
Yes.
What did they tell you?
I think the biggest thing that hit me, even the next morning after we all got up from what had happened, was I remember looking at a couple of them and asking them, what's up with the videotape thing? Everybody keeps talking about that this has to do with the videotape, and they just shrugged and said, I have no idea.
They were puzzled by the video.
It's one of the things that I said to a couple of the guys. I said, "What? Do you guys understand what's going on in the press, what they're saying?" And one guy just looked at me and goes, I have no idea. Like, they were completely perplexed. Like, they knew that this was a full-scale attack from while it was going on. And the reports about the video were, they had some kind of a spontaneous uprising, was confusing them because they had mortars, AK-47s, and RPGs.
Because they knew right away.
They knew during the attack that it was who was doing the attacking.
And they told you that?
Yes.
What specifically? How did they know?
After they had left the consulate in Benghazi and went to the safe house, they were getting reports that cell phones, consulate cell phones, were being used to make calls to the attackers' higher-ups, I guess what you can say.
So they're getting real-time info that these cell phones that were State Department cell phones are being used by the bad guys to talk to their leadership.
They didn't give any specifics. They just said that they knew while the attack was going on who was doing it.
A separate source with intimate details of the situation confirmed this to Fox, that the source saw intelligence reports of real-time intercepted calls of terrorists using State Department cell phones recovered at the consulate during the battle to call their leadership, and that the info was relayed to teams on the ground.
They said that there was a Libyan security guard that was on the take for the bad guys and had given them given the bad guys information about escape routes, who was at the consulate, where the location of the CIA safe house was, stuff like that.
And they knew that.
And they knew that.
So you're interacting with these guys, and they're telling the story about how they get out.
Yeah.
Of Benghazi.
I guess once they left the CIA compound, they headed to the airport. This whole battle had lasted 7 to 8 hours. Pretty protracted battle. They're all pretty shot up. Obviously, they had wounded with them. And once they got to the airport, they had a private plane waiting for them that they were going to all get on to evacuate, along with 2 of their guys that were pretty injured.
So they've got those guys on stretchers?
They've got those guys on stretchers, and from what they told me, they had to strap them onto the stretchers because the doorway was too narrow.
In the private plane.
In the private planes, they actually had to strap them onto the stretchers and turn them sideways to get in. And they were pretty banged up. I guess one had a femoral leg wound, which the tourniquet came off, got pretty bloody.
And there's a flight attendant?
Yeah, I guess when they took their 2 injured guys on the airplane, she started getting kind of hysterical, and it got bloody. And she wanted them to put their guns away, which they're a little hesitant to do.
So the story that you hear at Ramstein is that blood is all over this private plane. The flight attendant is really kind of losing it.
Yeah.
And telling them to put the guns like in the bathroom or something?
I think it was in the bathroom, yes.
And then a round goes off?
I think they were trying to clear their weapons, or at some point a round went off, because they were obviously in a rush. They didn't know when or if they were going to get jumped at the airplane or at the airport. And so I think just in the trying to get out of there. At one point, a round went off, and then the pilot came running back and was trying to find out who was shooting at his airplane.
Wow.
And I think at one point they just looked at him and said, "Let's get out of here now."
That's a pretty amazing story.
Pretty scary.
And again, had your C-17 been tapped sometime during that 7-hour, 8-hour period,
If we would have gotten a call, right when this all kicked off, if they would have made a decision. Because one of the other things they told me was that they had requested that a C-130 be on standby at the airport a month prior.
a month prior to 9/11.
A month prior to 9/11, and the request, I guess, was denied. So they had requested something to be on standby there in Benghazi.
In case it got hairy.
Mm-hmm.
Why tell this, now?
I don't think a lot of the truth has necessarily been told. Like, people aren't necessarily fessing up to what happened, and hopefully the truth will come out eventually. I told these guys, you guys are absolute heroes. These guys clearly deserve some kind of recognition. They're absolute heroes for what they did.
Eric Stahl was not interviewed for the ARB, the Accountability Review Board. We reached out to the former ambassador to Germany, U.S. ambassador to Germany, Philip Murphy, for comment, have not heard back. This story is also posted online, foxnews.com, at the top of the webpage there, and we will also be posting this interview on our homepage.